All right, welcome back to the show. We're going to get to Coca-Cola in just a minute. Also, apparently the Muppet Show has run afoul of the cancel culture mob. We're going to get into that a little bit later on as well. It's a crazy world out there, folks. What are you going to do? All right. In the meantime, let's go to the... Well, you know what? Grace Baker, turn your microphone on for just a moment here. So
yes.
You need to help me out here because according to my rundown is different than what you've got. So tell us who we have on the Liberty University Newsmaker line.
Yes, we have Representative Jodey Arrington from the great state of Texas.
All right. Well, Congressman, welcome to the program. An honor to have you with us.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, Todd. And as we say, howdy from the food, fuel, and fiber capital of the world, West Texas.
Congressman, we've been following the developments out of there with this big winter storm, and of course we got smacked with it here in Memphis, Tennessee. And I think we can both say that our states are not accustomed to that much snow and ice.
No, we're not. Our peak season is in August. It's usually the summer months that get us, and that's what we are generally having to prepare for, not winterization and the other things that come with severe and inclement weather on the colder side. So lots of lessons for us to learn as Texans on this, but having a plan, having the reserve power, being smarter and getting at it earlier in terms of the curtailment of power so that we don't kick off more generation than we did to get 4.5 million people leave 4.5 million people without heat. So there's a lot of scrutiny going to be brought to bear on the Public Utility Commission this week and on ERCOT, which is the independent grid operator. But I'm confident, Texas will be better and stronger as a result of this. And hopefully the rest of the country can learn some of these lessons too.
Well, again, this was one of these storm of the century events. And I know there's been a lot of controversy over the power grid there. By and large, though, is the power grid okay? Does it normally work and function adequately there in the Lone Star State?
It absolutely does. In fact, I would contend that we have the most cost-effective and efficient power delivery and power generation than any state in the union. And 99% of the time, it serves our customers and consumers and citizens well. See, we're deregulated and we have an open, free, and competitive market, which means the consumers win. We have choices and we get low-cost energy as a result. The problem is there needs to be some level of safeguards in place to require utilities to weatherize and do whatever else is necessary to have reliable power in these, once in a generation weather scenarios. So still need to make the investment, probably need to have some light touch regulatory safeguards, but the competitive, open, and free market system, we believe, works, and we think that would be best not only for energy, but for healthcare, telecommunications, and everything else.
Now, there was an interesting report over the weekend, Congressman, about one guy. He and his wife live in Houston, and they got smacked with a $17,000 electric bill. Are you hearing reports like that around the state, or is this just an anomaly?
No, this is. I'm afraid this is a pervasive problem now. What has happened when you don't do your job, and I'm talking about state officials, state leaders, the regulatory entity, the Public Utilities Commission, if you don't do your job on the front end to prepare for this, the wrong thing to do on top of the chaos and crisis you've created for your citizens is not to gouge them at a time when they're most vulnerable. So the governor's doing the right thing, and he's saying we're not going to allow folks to be hit with exorbitant costs. We're going to take care of that, and we're not going to let people be disconnected from their energy supply for non-payment. So there's a lot of cleanup to do, but no, that's happening, and it's the wrong thing to do. Again, it's like insult to injury because these folks thought that their state leaders and that ERCOT and the utility regulators we're better prepared for this.
Yeah, I feel bad for these folks, but seems to be the response has been, well, we'll set them up on a payment plan. That's not good enough to me, Congressman.
No, not me neither. These folks, again, did not anticipate that there wouldn't be reserve power. They didn't anticipate that literally they were redirecting power away from gas generation plants, which is a 50% of the base load for our grid in Texas. So there were just some real bonehead decisions made, and we shouldn't stick the taxpayers and the citizens of Texas with the bill on top of having to sit literally in freezing cold temperatures for 3 or 4 days. And now you've got about a third of the state still with potable water problems because of pipes bursting and low pressure in the water system. So we're still working our way out of the hole here, so to speak. But I think it's more than insulting. It's the wrong thing to do to stick people with these exorbitant price gouging electricity bills.
Now, and again, I'm not deep into the weeds in Texas politics, but you got a Republican governor. The state house there, if my memory serves me correctly, the state legislature in Texas has much more power. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. And they meet every other year, and they're meeting currently. So the session is active, and this is front and center for them to look at and identify how they can be better prepared and solve the problems and address the gaps. Again, here's my bottom line as I assess it, is that 99% of the time we have the best power generation, distribution, and most cost-effective for consumers because it's a competitive market. It's not monopolized by the state. It's not bureaucratized by the state. But, private utilities in a scenario like that will try to skimp so that they don't cut in their margins on weatherization and planning for the 30-year sort of once-in-a-generation storm. And that's where I think government should appropriately step in and say, here's some requirements, and we are demanding that is a plan is presented to the lawmakers and to our leaders so that we can better respond to something like we've seen as of last couple of weeks.
And one last question on this particular topic, Congressman. Are you concerned that Republicans could suffer some blowback at the ballot box as a result of all of this?
Well, unlike some of my Democrat colleagues, and I hate to generalize here, but Republicans, I think, are owning this, and they are taking responsibility. I've seen that in the governor. I've heard it from the ag commissioner. I said it on Fox News today that, we are limited government, liberty-loving conservatives. We're not no government conservatives, and we have to have the appropriate light touch. I mean, there's a reason Texas creates about half the jobs in this country, and that businesses are fleeing states like California and other places because we have low regulations along with low taxes. So we love that freedom and independence, but there's a balance. And I think they're just going to have to recalibrate that. And like you said, it was once in a generation storm most of the time, even in inclement weather, but whether it's winter or summer heat, we're generally prepared for it. So we've got to make the adjustments. We got to do right by our citizens here as we clean up this mess. And but we don't need to overreact and have some government-run utilities. I think that would be wrong-headed altogether.
Well, yeah, and that's fair enough. And I mean, I do think that the Republicans are stepping up and again doing what needs to be done. And as you said, it's working. So we're getting things back on. Got to get that water back, and then things will get back to normal. Real quick, Congressman, the other thing we've been looking at, this Republican Study Committee report. I mean, this is a jaw-dropping thing here where we're going to be giving all sorts of money and benefits to illegal aliens that are now coming across the border in droves, from what we've heard.
Well, think about it. The unilateral actions taken by President Biden, more executive orders than 4 presidents combined prior to this administration. And he's got no border wall funding, no deportation, no accountability for these sanctuary cities. The list is long, and now you've got a border bill, or it's an immigration bill rather, that he introduced that is basically an open border and amnesty plan. I mean, it's going to give citizens or citizenship to people who broke the law to come here, and basically it's an open invitation for folks in Central and South America to come to this country, crossing our border illegally without not only accountability, but with a reward. And so it is so backwards, and it's a slap in the face to Texans and other border states who pay billions of dollars to secure the border and enforce immigration because their federal government has abdicated that. So it's a horrible, horrible plan. And by the way, when President Biden is restricting our freedoms and putting mandates on the citizens of this country on account of COVID and in the name of stopping the spread, but says, come one, come all, the 25,000 in Mexico who are staying there until their asylum claims are processed, well, he thinks it's a good idea just to have them come in, catch and release to the interior of the country, no testing, no screening. It's horrible disaster from a public health standpoint, not just economic, not just public safety, et cetera.
Oh, Congressman, well said. I got to tell you, I'm very impressed by your candor here. We'd love to get you back on the program soon. Of course, we hear a lot from one of your cohorts down there, Louis Gohmert, always a great American patriot, and you are as well, sir.
Well, Todd, thanks for having me on your show, and I would love to join you again. And Louis Gohmert is a great American, and I'm proud to serve with him. We got a lot of work to do to defend this great experiment in liberty and democracy over the next 4 years. But remember this, we have only a 5-seat margin in the House. We had 20 before. We have more females, more diverse class of Republican congressmen and women than we've ever had in the history. And so I think things are looking up, and I think there's a hopeful future for those who believe in those principles and values. So God bless. God bless you from Texas, and thanks for your thoughts and prayers, guys.
All right, Congressman Jodey Arrington, representing the good folks down in the Lubbock area and Abilene, good people in those parts of Texas.